I know that many modalities that we all use can get transformation for a period of time. They can get transformation for some of the time. But it really, in my opinion, it takes that extra step into something a little bit different and some extra tools and techniques to clear away the blocks to them actually getting that lasting transformation. I think what happens with a number of different modalities. Now, was originally trained as a life coach, so I am diplomaed in a life coach, so quite highly trained, master NLP. I had all those tools and techniques before I found EFT. So I already had a thriving practice in that space. And look, I got great results from my clients. We were able to talk about goals. We were able to talk about what they wanted to achieve and how they wanted to get there. And I did a lot of great work in there. But what EFT ended up giving to me, so tapping ended up giving for me to give to them, was we cleared the blocks to getting the goals. And that, I think, is the key to some of the transformational stuff that we have with our clients is, yes, we all want to set the goals, and yeah, we can map the roadmap to where we want to go, but it's the support in getting over the hurdles, the blocks, and the obstacles to getting there that really was the key to helping my clients really get that massive transformation that not only they got them, but they get now as well. So I do work with a number of business clients, not a whole lot, but I do get business clients from time to time. And what we do is, when we do the tapping, is we take away the underlying blocks. We take away the stuff that's underneath. We take away the inner dialogue. We take away the inner critic. We take away the not feeling good enough and all that sort of stuff. But in this class that we're going to run, we're also going to touch on some trauma. As I said, I'm going to give you some of the frameworks that I teach my students, and I'm going to do something a little bit different on the live. I'm going to swap into whiteboarding in a moment. But what I want to do is I said, come and talk to you about how do we take our clients who have experienced trauma, and how do we take them from some trauma into what we call triumph? How do we help them overcome that trauma? Now, we have conversations that go on in the whole world, and it talks about big T and little t. Big T trauma versus little t trauma. What's the difference? For me, I think a lot of the big T and little t stuff is about perception. I had much of my life, probably right up until well into my 50s, and I didn't think I ever had any trauma. My mother had died when I was 18. We were an immigrant family. We had no family over here. So my dad ended up in a new relationship fairly quickly after she died. My brother kind of went off and did his thing. So there was a whole lot of, in real life, trauma attached to my mum having died when I was 18. Fast forward, I had my children, I had emergency cesareans, I had blood transfusions. Things went pretty bad in the childbirth space for me. I got divorced, my marital stuff fell apart, financial stress, all the rest of it. I didn't recognize any of that as trauma. I just put it down to, well, that's what happens. It's life happens, things happen, and stuff happens to people. And I never labeled it any trauma. So what that means is I never gave it not necessarily priority, but I just didn't give it importance, might be a better word. I didn't give it any importance. Now, I know there'll be people watching this and going, well, it doesn't deserve importance. Just flick it under the carpet and off you go and just forget all about it. But I find what happens is it gets stuck in people's body. We know this. There's been science behind this. There's been books written about it. There's experts that talk about it. We know, and when we work with clients, particularly with tapping, we know that it's stuck in the body. So one of our frameworks that we're going to show you on Tuesday night is the real foundational core EFT framework that I want to share with you is figuring out where it is in the body. So where in a person's body does this trauma turn up? And it may not be, the word trauma might be the right thing, but they'll have sensations, they'll have feelings, they'll have something that goes on in their body, that their body reacts to what happened to them in the past. Now, we know that it's going to be in the body somewhere. We know there's going to be an emotion attached to it, and there's going to be intensity. Even if you haven't mastered the skills of teaching your clients how to access that. Sometimes we need to teach our clients how they need to access the body. I mean, I think the body is the best diagnostic tool that you have. It will tell you when something feels off. It will tell you when a situation doesn't feel safe. It'll tell you when a person doesn't feel safe. It will just its reactions are just, it's like your feelings are like the language of the body. Like it's just, these are sensations. So sometimes we need to teach our clients how to access that body and how to really feel into it. And you might not be someone who's really feeling into your body. We're going to teach you that. So we're going to do that framework on Tuesday evening of showing you where that is. Now, to get someone beyond trauma, and trauma, I said trauma for people like, oh, you know, that's such a big word, and it is, but just stick with me as it just as a word. Trauma is about some events that have happened to us. It's and something becomes traumatic when the brain can't quite process and can't quite cope with what has happened, and we get this traumatic response. So the trauma may and usually has happened, well, in the past, so it's not happening right this second, but it's happened in the past, whether it's the recent past or a long distant past. It's happened in the past, but the body holds on to the reactions of that now. Now, tapping is my favorite technique and tool for getting rid of or releasing or allowing those emotions and those sensations to move through and pass through us. Tapping is my favorite way to do that. But there's kind of a bit of a skill and a bit of a technique to doing so, except because the body holds on to it. So what also then happens is, while the body's holding on to these traumatic events and its sensations and stuff, when we think about it, we create stories around it as well. So something that may have happened to you when you were 6 is still impacting you today, because the thought and the memory behind it comes in and activates you. You kind of get this response. You kind of get this, you think about something that may have happened. I don't know. You know what? Let's go whiteboard it. Let's go play. Let's go whiteboard. And we'll come up with a brand new whiteboard, and I will say we're presenting, and no, let's open this board and see what happens. Oops, here comes the board now. All right, so I'm going to draw my my first framework that I'm going to show you. So this is one of the frameworks that we teach. So this is a very dodgy looking, oops, tabletop. We'll only do a little one. All right, and these are our table legs. Now, this is one of the concepts that one of the frameworks that we teach our students. So the table, top framework, and we will go into this in detail on Tuesday night. If we think of this as one of the frameworks that we use. So if we are going to start to say, our clients come up and they've come to us and they've pretty much just said, you know, I've got anxiety, or I'm suffering from anxiety, or I have anxiety. Anxiety is one of those things that people talk about they have, and it's there. All right, so we'll just do it really easy. So it's anxiety. Anxiety, if we were to just do some tapping and just share, even though I have this anxiety, deeply and completely accept myself, this anxiety, this anxiety, this anxiety, we're going to be able to say to our clients, so where in your body, when you think about anxiety, do you feel it? And generally, people will find it in 3 main places, not always, but main. Is it around the throat? Is it across the chest, whether it be tightness across the chest? And in the stomach, whether that's usually some sort of flittering or tightness or some sort of sensation in the stomach. There are 3 primary places that people feel it. So a client comes in and they say, well, you know, I'm suffering from anxiety. We're going to do some tapping on anxiety. Where is it in the body? What's the emotion that's attached to it? And what's the sensation? So I feel anxious. I feel it's about a 6. We may be able to get that down there. But what we want to be able to do is we want to get into the table legs. We want to find out what holds this person's anxiety in place by finding out what the stories are. That might be my brother teased me. Okay, the intensity for that might be a 7, say. So not that my brother teased me too often, but my brother teased me. This one might be my boss got mad at me today. And that might be an 8, more current, right? My boss got mad at me. That's that table leg. This table leg over here may be, I got bullied at school. And that may be only a 4. We don't really think about that too much. Can we see that easily? Oops. Oh, I got bullied at school. And this last one might be, you know, something that happened when I was 6, it's sitting at about a 7, and don't want to talk about it. Right, now the beautiful thing about EFT is when our clients don't want to talk about it, it's amazing because they don't have to talk about it. They actually, we can do EFT tapping and we can clear stuff and move energy and process emotions around a particular event without me, the practitioner, even knowing what the event is. Obviously, the client needs to know what the event is, but I don't need to know what the event is. All right, so when we have our, let me just move some notes around. So when we have our tabletop here, and we have our intensity, what it's easy enough to do is when we talk to our client and we've had a conversation, we've done this anxiety. So what holds the anxiety in place? So what else is coming up for you? And they may say to you, my boss got really mad at me today. Okay, now we can start to do some tapping on my boss got mad at me. And you may be able to say to them, okay, so tell me what happened when your boss got mad at you, and get them to tap while they're telling you. And this is what you would do as a practitioner. You would get them to tap along the points while they're telling you what happened with the boss. And you'll be able to read them. You will be able to see what's happening in their body. You will be able to see when there's emotional intensity because their eyes will water up. And you'll be able to break down into things that are happening for this client. Now, when we start to talk about the boss got mad at me today, you want to know what the story is. What's the story this person has made up about why the boss got mad at her? What it means about her? All right, so not what it means about the boss, but what we want to find out. What does it mean about me? My boss got mad at me, so what's wrong with me? What does it mean about me? What have I done? It's all about me. Okay, so you want to bring them into me. So you could do some tapping on that about the boss getting mad. You may have chosen to do, okay, the event when I was 6 that I don't want to talk about, maybe it's about a 9, say I've written a 7, maybe it was a 9. And you as the practitioner would be able to go, that thing that happened to me when I was 6, the intensity is about a 9. I can feel it in my chest. And I want to give my body permission to let it go. That's super, super quick. But this is the frame that we are going to use when we are helping clients get out of something that we call a tabletop, and their anxiety is just too big, just too large, and just too multifaceted for you to actually effectively be able to use that and work with that and just bring the anxiety down. You want to get into the table legs. You want to get into the events and the memories. We want to get into what the story is they told themselves about this event, what stories they told themselves about what it means about them. And then we can start to look at where does it activate them? Where does it trigger them and activate them in the now? Because remember, while the event happened in the past, the body's storing it in the now. So we want to be able to help to clear that for them and to be able to move that through for them. Now I'm going to just close the little whiteboard here and come back to you. So clearing trauma for clients can be fast. It can be slow. It's the client's pace that we will honor and we will respect, depending on the amount of stories that they've got around it, depending on how the stories are impacting. It also depends on how tightly they are wanting to hang on to those stories. Because while we all go, no, I want rid of this, I'm done, I don't want to hang on to this, I don't want to have this part of my life anymore, there's also an element of, yeah, but what do they get out of keeping hold of it? What do they get out of running that pattern? What do they get to avoid? What do they get to not do? What do they get to not have to do that they might not want to do that allows them to stay held over here? So all of these things are things that we teach you as a practitioner. This is just a bit of an overview. So that's just a little bit of insight into how we help people go from that trauma space to help them have some triumph. And when we talk triumph, it's about being able to let go of that trauma, being able to have the impacts of it not impact you today or not impact them today, not have your behavior and your patterns run so autopilot from something that's happened in the past. You get to shift and you get to change, and you get to make better choices and stuff like that. So I am super, super happy that you've been here. Put some comments underneath the video. I always forget what to say, but comments underneath the video. Share the video where you know that people would like to hear about this sort of stuff. Much love to everybody. And